but pretty good. Good morning from my family's log cabin. This log cabin's been in my family since, I think, the 50s, 1950s. Yesterday we were out looking at, just walking the land, and there was an old dry dock boathouse that was, part of the kind of the area that we're in, and I saw carved into some concrete, a slab of concrete, August 30th, 1970, and I saw the initials of a good family friend, and I became so nostalgic, and I remember, just growing up here, and there's so many memories here, and now I'm part of the generation that's, being primed to take over. The older generation is still here, still doing their thing, and they're still kind of in charge, but my generation's now kind of becoming the people that will be in charge next. So it just feels meaningful. So what I want to do today is I just want to read the 61st stanza. We're at 61 stanza. We're at the 61st stanza of 114 stanzas. So we're almost halfway through. This is the 13th week. And so I just want to read this stanza to you and just, ask you if you want. You can put in the comments, or you can put in a comment later. What this stanza itself, by itself, makes you think of. Because when I read it, it makes me think of, here, let me just read it. Functioning harmoniously together, right and left give birth to all techniques. The left hand takes hold of life and death. The right hand controls it. The four limbs of the body are the pillars of heaven and manifest the 8 directions, yin and yang, inner and outer. So when I hear functioning harmoniously, and then I hear right and left, I immediately think of politics. And I immediately think of politics, especially because there's so much turmoil right now. I mean, the thing about the president is that he creates turmoil everywhere. And part of it is an effective tactic that serves him and the brand very well. But the other part of it is a disruption in any kind of standard of behavior that is impossible to mimic. It's one of the things that I've often said about the president, is that while his style fosters a total disruption in others, it can't be sustained. It's a fundamental flaw to the style that has been, as the Trump style. There's a fundamental flaw to it, and the fundamental flaw is that it can't be sustained. And because it can't be sustained, it's met with resistance everywhere. And part of the technique is that the resistance currently does not, the resistance doesn't really stand up. The problem is that he's so good at being powerful and causing a tumultuous environment that there's really nothing to do to kind of counter in the moment his environment, his turmoil, in any way that would create a pause in him to say, I should shift tactics. There's no way to get to that. So if there's no way to get to that, then what you have to do is you have to cultivate strength in other ways. And then fortunately we have a democracy in America that's, it's holding up, that we have the ability to vote the guy out. But you've got to get there. And the problem with Trump's tactics is that by creating turmoil and being the creator of turmoil, so he's the first creator, because he's the first creator of the turmoil, and he's the most powerful man in the world, everything gets kind of spun through him first. So he's always first to the field on the latest turmoil. So how do you create harmony in turmoil? Where do you find harmony in turmoil that's so constant, that shows up every single day, that shows up almost every hour, that's broadcasted, to infinity? How do you counter that? Well, this is a perfect example of how to do that. It just takes the skill, which is what we'll practice in a minute, to get to it. And so the way you counter the turmoil is by becoming something that is steadfast and consistent for all time. And what do you mean steadfast and consistent for all time? So if you look back at any of the ancient texts, so any ancient texts that foster wisdom and truth and all that other kind of stuff, anyone, all the big ones at the very least, they all point to the same basic human ability, and that's the ability for compassion. And the reason why compassion is the big one, okay, is because the thing that is fundamental to all life, is suffering. And I don't mean like life is bleak and life sucks and, it's awful, da-da-da. I just mean that everybody experiences suffering. Everybody. Not everybody experiences luxury. Not everybody experiences success. Not everybody experiences pleasure. Not everybody experiences joy. But everybody experiences suffering. And so the problem with the way you get to a harmonious relationship with turmoil is to cultivate a heart that is capable of compassion. And I said earlier that Trump's chaos is strategic. Well, compassion is also very strategic. And the reason it's strategic is because it protects you. And you say, what does it protect you from? Well, the problem with turmoil and the problem with the kind of chaos that Trump creates is that you can't rely on your mind. And that's what's so difficult, is that you can't rely on your mind because you can't find truth. You can't rely on your mind because there's no consistency. You can't rely on your mind because everything is being used as a way to kind of rev you up and distract you. And that's strategic, and it's quite effective. You have to give it that. But what happens if you kind of succumb and start to just resist or fight back or harden your heart is that you practice hardening your heart. You practice armoring up. And if you practice armor up, it gets harder to armor down. So the easiest thing to do is to just practice armor down from the beginning. You practice setting your armor down from the beginning. And if you can do that, even inside the chaos, that's where you find the harmony. So that's where you find harmony inside of chaos, is in open-heartedness. So what does open-heartedness look like in the context of Trump getting the coronavirus? Well, it looks like compassion, right? And you don't have compassion for Trump. You have compassion for compassion's sake. So regardless of if it's Trump or if it's, the pool boy who has no power whatsoever, you still cultivate compassion because an open heart is more powerful than anything in the world. And I say that not because an open heart has some kind of, master power that controls people. No, an open heart has this master power that enables you to connect to people. And the more you can connect to people, the better off the world is. So the better off they are. And the better off they are, the better off you are. So you don't connect to people with compassion just because it's nice. You don't have compassion for the president because you want to be moral or nice. You have compassion for the president who is sick and who's spreading it to other people and who's indifferent to it and who uses everything to foster his own brand, you have compassion for him because otherwise you would just hate. And that's, see, the problem with hate is that hate hurts you. It hurts you. Like the feeling of hate, you get that boost, you get that, yeah, fuck you, wow, it lifts you up. And then it takes you down, and then you become more and more armored up, more and more close-hearted. And then before you know it, you're just an angry person. And an angry person, it's so hard for angry people to feel anything unless other people are getting destroyed. That's the problem with hate. The problem with hate is not that it's bad. It is bad, but the reason why it's bad is because the more you hate, the less you see yourself in other people. And the less you see yourself in other people, the easier it is to kill them and go to war with them or hate them or cause problems with them. And then the worst part about that is as soon as you start causing problems with others, they become close-hearted as well, and then they start coming after you. I mean, gosh, like this is just obvious stuff, and you've seen it time and time again throughout history. It's always this way. It's always going to be this way because it's just what happens. So what do? Right? Well, you have to cultivate compassion. Well, fuck. I mean, screw this guy. He blatantly doesn't follow the rules. Everybody knows why to follow the rules. He's getting other people infected. He doesn't care. He's sending mixed messages. He's so confusing. Why in the hell would I want to have compassion for him? Because you don't have compassion for him. You have compassion for you. You have compassion for you. Your compassion, your open-heartedness, projected out, even in the face of the utmost turmoil, creates a safe space, not only for you, but for the people around you. You're not cultivating and thinking about ways to denigrate this or denigrate that or shame this or shame that or create big old narratives for why it's this intellectual thing and that's intellectual thing. You simply cultivate compassion because that's the most powerful thing to do. The most powerful thing for turmoil to do is shut people down. The most powerful thing for compassion to do is keep people connected. So you're not doing it for the president. The president may, in a spiritual sense, may in a cosmic sense, may in a meta sense, benefit from your goodwill directing out towards him and others who are experiencing something similar. But the real value is that your heart stays open and operative and ready. And that's more powerful than anything. And then the thing, and this is the cool part, right, is that open-heartedness always wins. And it doesn't always win because this is the happy ending and there's some morals to the story and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't always win that way. Because of that, it wins because open-hearted people connect more. And the more people that connect, and the more people that connect to each other with open-heartedness, the more they create. Because love creates. That's what love does. It does it fundamentally. It doesn't do it because it needs something else. That's just what love does. It's like water's wet. Love creates. Hate, darkness, evil, has to have something else. It has to have your heart, your love. All the love that you can create can be taken by hate and used. And the problem, what hate does is it takes all the giving power of love, all the creative power of love, and then takes it for its own ends. And it takes it from you. It takes it from you. Love feeds you. Okay? I really like the word honor, because honor is another way of describing love. You get more honor by giving it, right? And so you can't ever run out of honor, because all you have to do is keep giving of your goodwill to get it, right? So you always have it because it's always there. It always has that power. Hate, on the other hand, hate requires things. Hate does not exist on its own. Hate has to be fed. And then as hate is fed, it destroys. Love is what feeds you. And as you feed the love within you, then it grows. It's just what happens. So again, you're not doing this for this moral story kind of thing. You're doing it to maintain an open-hearted mind, an open-hearted body, and an open-hearted spirit, because that's where true power is. So that's where you find the harmony. You find the harmony in recognizing that there's suffering implicit to the moment, and then you offer your goodwill. Now, it's hard to get there. Fortunately, that's what the practice is for. The practice is for, the 4 bells are for specifically recognizing the present moment. Okay, it's really important to recognize the present moment. If you don't recognize the present moment, then you're lost in story. And being lost in story is similar to being lost in chaos, because your story can go in any direction. And then your story is also where you're trauma lies. So that's a problem. So you cannot go, you have to get out of the story in the present moment. Second, you got to get to the body. And the reason why you get to the body is, 1, is to develop that relationship with the body, but 2, trauma is also stored in the body. So you have to interact with that, and you can't let it be guiding you. So you have to recognize the trauma in the mind, and you have to recognize the trauma in the body. Trauma in the body shows up in all kinds of different ways. But as you participate with your body and interact with your body in a consistent kind of way, those patterns and cues will become more familiar to you, and you can start to counter them. And the way you start to counter them is bell 3. So bell 3 is the breath. So once you recognize the moment and then start to interact with the body, and then you can get to bell 3. Once you can do that, then you can start to interact. So then you can start to say, well, okay, here's the story, here's the experience in the body. How do I interact with it? Well, in a simple sense, right? If it's tight, if it's really tight, you breathe to loosen it. Okay? If it's really down, right, really low, you expand to bring it up, lift it up. So what this is you're just recognizing one side of the polarity, and you're cultivating the other side with the breath, because the breath is the match. The breath has an empty space. The breath has an inhale expansion, and the breath has an exhale come back to neutral. So as you start to interact with that, you start to see, oh, okay, just because I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z doesn't mean I have to keep experiencing X, Y, and Z in a mindless way. I can actually interact with it and do something about it. That's bell 3. Now bell 4 is the point, right? Bell 4 is the getting to the open-heartedness. Now another way to say that is your best self. You're getting to your divine essence. I mean, you call it whatever you want. But once you have established presence, engagement with the body, and interaction through the breath, then you've just set your systems up. You've set your systems up to be in their kind of best state. So you're more parasympathetically or sympathetically balanced. There's a good balance there. There's not extremes going on in any direction, so you're not extremely like mellowed out and low. You're not like wired and high. You're just like even. Okay, so all your systems are even. That means there's nothing disrupting you in any way. And then you go into this mindset of compassion and open-heartedness, which is going to release not just like a drug, like a hit of a drug. Like your body your brain creates the feel-good chemicals that give life its oomph, right? And so when you're cultivating an open heart, your brain's not sending you like a heroin hit of goodwill or like good feelings, like dopamine and whatever. It's like your brain releases a thick log, right? Kind of like that fire behind me. It's like your brain releases a thick log that goes down into your system and slowly but steadily just burns, providing heat. It's not like a bunch of like dried leaves that your brain just throws in whoosh like a flash, like a hit, right? No. It's your brain like rolls this like fucking tree. It's like this massive tree. Just kind of rolls it into your furnace, and that burns for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And you don't really feel it per se. It's not like it's not like that. It's like a lift. It's like an elevation, right? So you're here, you're at 0, then you move up to 1. So it's the difference between feeling, I've really felt good today. I've really felt like I really felt alive, active, and da-da-da-da. that's what that is. It's not a spike like, oh, I could do anything. Ah. It's this, it's like a little elevation up, and you're just like, today just a little bit more confidence, a little bit more feeling, a little bit more, just a little bit more willingness to tackle whatever you've got to tackle. Like that's what that does. That's what practicing open-hearted does. So that's where you find the harmony and the turmoil, compassion. There's really no other way to do it, and it's so useful for the long haul, right? It's just, man. So don't let your heart get captured by this shit, and don't hating the president or being like obsessively in love with him is not. It's not sustainable. Just period. That's it. It's just not. so anyway, let's do some training, and then we'll finish up. All right. So what cues you to comfort? If you're going to stay and practice the mindfulness, the first thing that you do is you kind of assess what makes you comfortable. And for me, what makes me comfortable is getting my legs right. Like once I've got my hair, you can kind of see. See, for me, I've got to get that. And sometimes it looks like this. That's comfortable. I got to get that. And I also got to notice my hips, right? So I'm on an armor down cushion, meditation cushion, which is super helpful because it gets the hips. The hips are squared away, so that's super helpful. So you want to cue to comfort. What cues you to comfort? So once you've established your cues for comfort, then we'll be ready to begin. So get myself back to where I like it. All right, now here's the bell, okay? This bell is what marks the time, okay? So you got, that's bell 1, right? Then you'll hear 2 bells. That's bell 2, 3 bells, bell 3, 4 bells, bell 4, right? And other than listening for the bells, you just listen to my guidance. And what my guidance is going to be centered around is guiding you to pay attention first to the present moment, so that's through your senses. Second bell will be to pay attention to your body. Okay, that's through just awareness of the parts of your body. The third bell, okay, will be all about encouraging you to pay attention to your breathing. Okay, and I'm gonna give you models to match your breathing to, and you'll see that when you can think, breathe inside that model, you'll feel it. You'll literally feel it. And that just goes to show you that your ability to participate with what's going on inside of you is ever present. Ever present. And then the last part, fourth bell, is I'll just invite you to move into what I call the best version of yourself, right? And so we'll start with something simple like gratitude. So to be grateful is to open your heart to the things that you're appreciative to. So it's not hard. Everyone can typically find something to be grateful for. But what I try to do is try to make it real simple. Like, what's something you're grateful for that's directly around you? Like maybe you're grateful for your cell phone. Like maybe that's it. Maybe you're grateful for whatever piece of technology you're using. That's a simple one. Maybe you're grateful for the fact that you're not you're not out in the cold, or you're not out, you have a roof over your head. Real simple, right? You start there, and then if you want, you can just have that be the place, because it's uncomfortable, to imagine having compassion for a guy who would not have compassion for you. It's hard, but again, you're not doing it for him. You're not doing it for them. You're not doing it for the other people in that sense. You're doing it for yourself, and that helps other people, But that's where you want to understand your compassion is first and foremost the opening of your heart and the facilitation of your life and your goodwill as a practice, something you work on, something that you cultivate internally, not something that happens whether this or that happens out in the world. That's not how it works. So those are the 4 bells. So you're cued for comer. I've talked too much. Let's start. All right, here's bell 1. So just start by looking around wherever you are and recognizing how light and shadow plays around with edges and corners, and everything has elements of light and shadow if you're looking, if you can see it, right? There's always little aspects of light and shadow that you didn't notice before. And what I do is I just encourage people to be curious about that, because curiosity tames the mind every time. So as you're curious, your mind's on the present moment, you're just noticing what's going on with your eyes. And then when you're ready, recognize everything is cool. There's nothing you have to pay close attention to with your eyes. Close your eyes and then go into your sense of sound. Now with your sense of sound, you want to be thinking about what you hear and where you hear it. And so you can just ask yourself, it's like, what do I hear? Where do I hear it? Is it close? Is it far away? How far away is it? How far away am I hearing sound? How close are you hearing sound? Is it nature sounds, machine sounds, people sounds? Now, once you've established comfort and safety with your sight, your ability to see, your ability to hear, come close into the body and notice your sense of touch. And that's just to notice that whatever's touching you, whatever's around you, whatever's the breeze, all that is, again, safe and comfortable. Now, if it's not, you can move. Don't think that you got to be absolutely still. That's the way to meditate. Like, that's not the case. You can make any adjustments you want. Lastly, check your sense of smell and your sense of taste. So you just notice that we've just gone from how your attention through your senses can be expanded way out, and then it can come very close in. All right, let's go to bell 2. As the sound of bell 2 fades, we move into the body. Notice your ground. Your ground is what you're touching. So if you're seated, that's what's underneath you. Maybe it's the armor down cushion you have. Maybe it's your chair, just some pillow. Maybe you're on a couch or something. Just notice what's beneath you and what your body's touching. From there, move into the base of the spine at the pelvis. And feel free to make some adjustments. Feel free to shift left or right or forward or back. And just notice what it feels like to be on top of the base of your spine. From there, move up to the core space. I always encourage everyone, and everyone has something to say about their core space, but I always encourage everyone to recognize their core space in terms of sucking in terms of clenching, in terms of holding. There's so many layers of overlapping muscle that there's the potential for lots of clenching. Now there's also the potential for, tightness or sucking in and around the guts, and in between all that, which is the fascia. And so what you have to understand about your body is that your body, while layered, works together, and it can work by your thoughts. And so the stories can impact your body. So whatever story you have around your midsection, that's going to impact it. So see if you can not be impacted by the story you typically have around your midsection, and let it be at ease, at harmony, at peace. From there, move into the heart space. Everybody needs to do this, and I see this with all the people I work with all the time. Where are your shoulder blades, and can you move them closer to your spine a tiny bit? Now, whatever that is for you, just kind of pull the shoulder blades back towards the spine and see if you feel anything at all around the chest, around the collarbones, as you bring your shoulder blades back towards the spine, just a little bit. See what happens. Now, once you've established the heart space, chest space, whatever you like to call it, you move up to the throat. So the throat has got an outside and an inside, top and a bottom. Just notice the throat. Also notice the jaw. I like to add jaw to the throat space because I know lots of people clench their jaw. I clench my jaw. So soften the jaw. And then finally get to the tip top of the head, which is at the tip top of the spine. Ideally at the end of the second bell, you're at a state of alertness and relaxed. You're alert and relaxed. So you've got plenty of upright, plenty of kind of clear uprightness along the spine, but you're also letting go of any kind of tension through the face. So any tension in the muscles of the face, you're looking to let go. So softening around the eyes, softening behind the eyes, softening the cheeks, softening the mouth. And then all the way down. So one last check on the body, making sure it's alert and relaxed, and then we'll move into bell 3. Bell 3 is all about your breathing. So just notice your breathing as it is. Just take a breath in. Don't try to change it. Just notice your breathing as it is. And just think of this first breath as your baseline. Now go ahead and max that out. So make a full inhale, full exhale. Now, what I want you to do is think about your sides. I want you to try to breathe with your sides, and then see if you can feel your sides moving as you breathe. Think sides, breathe sides, feel sides. Okay, now think front back, breathe front back, feel front back. Now think up and down, breathe up and down, feel up and down. Now, see if you can tie the 3 together so that you feel sides, front, back, and up and down, each in succession as you take your full inhales and exhales. And then we're just going to sit in meditation for about a minute. So what I mean by that is you're just going to sit quietly You can pay attention to your breathing while you do this, and just pay attention to the experience. Just pay attention to the experience. You can watch your mind show up in story, bring it back to the experience of breathing. Just notice the breath, sit with it for a minute. So in fourth bell, we take all the steps and we put it into open-heartedness. So you've ideally completely armored down here, meaning you've let go of all the armor you carry in your story, in your body, and in your breath. And now you're here just ready to kind of just lay it out there. Just be like, okay, I'm grateful for. So what is it you're grateful for? Hey, I'm so grateful for this cabin. I'm so grateful for my mom for making sure it stayed in the family. I'm so grateful for all the people that built it and all the life that they've put into this place. Oh my gosh, it just feels so amazing. Like I'm just so grateful. Gosh. So it could be, something profound like that, or it could be just something simple. What are you grateful for? What makes you feel a sense of appreciation? What makes you feel thankful? And then if you like, you can move into a sense of compassion, which is acknowledging suffering. And, I'm going to go to the extreme. I'm going to have compassion for the president. I imagine that there are moments for him that are just terrifying. I mean, absolutely terrifying. He'd never let on. But I know it's true. All extremes beget extremes. There's no way around it. So, Mr. President, I have compassion for you. I know you're doing everything in your power to get reelected. And I know it probably seems like, life is against you. And I understand. I get it. And I hope that, when this is all said and done and, your finger's no longer on the button, that, you find some peace in the rest of your life. And, I get the impression that there are just a mountain of things out there that are just waiting for you to make a misstep, and they're just coming after you. And so I imagine that's pretty tough to deal with. So I offer you my goodwill, sir, and, do with it what. And so you can take this practice for as long as you want to take it. There's no bell that ends it. The end, it's more like the fourth bell begins the rest of the day. And so, if you want to end the kind of the mindful meditative practice, I encourage you to take 2 breaths, and on your second breath, kind of second exhale, kind of have everything finish up. But ultimately, the end of the practice begins the day. So when you're ready, take those 2 breaths. And you come back to it. But it's always nice practicing in the morning with anyone that's practicing with me. I love that. I see these little numbers in the corner, and I'm like, oh yes, hopefully that's you out there, just kind of doing your thing, getting ready for your day, and using the bells as a way to kind of get yourself squared away early on in the day, so that you're like, you're ready to meet the day with your mind, your body, your awareness, more your awareness. You're ready to meet the day with your awareness, and you know how to kind of break that up. Like, if your awareness recognizes you're in story, you can tame your mind with your senses. You know that if you're recognizing your experiences through your traumas that your body's holding, you can recognize that. And you notice that you know that you've got your breathing. You've always got your breathing. And then you've always got the ability to be grateful or compassionate, to kind of keep your heart primed and open. When that armor starts to build, when you start to armor up, things get hard quick. So, stay on top of it. And if you need any cues or guidance or tricks of the trade, just let me know. I'm always available on social media, and I love this stuff. So, please ask any questions that you might have, and we'll keep you going. So, all right, Armor Down, it's been a pleasure. I'm happy to share this wonderful place with you, this log cabin of the King families. And with that, I'll end the practice, see if there's anyone to say hello to, and see